Good evening, everybody. As was introduced, we do have an esteemed panel today. This is a group discussion and a panel discussion. I am just flipping a little of the design. My name is Richard Antony, so I'm taking over as the moderator, while Satheesh will be part of the panel for the discussion. As I have a very heavy laden industry expertise over this panel, let me quickly give the mic over to each of our panelists to actually introduce themselves, know their area of strength as well as what they are today working with, as well as then we can go into a sort of a question session if everybody is okay. Finally, opening up to the audience for any questions that they may have. So I'll just pass. Have the mics there. So why don't you start?
Hi.
Sai?
Can you hear me? Yep. So good afternoon, and my name is Sairaj. I lead experience design at Wipro, in addition to UI development and mobility. So what I do is I briefly talk about what we do and what shifts that we are seeing, and I would like you all to look at it from a perspective of not like Wipro's big IT company and they're doing work for some company somewhere, but the message that would be pertinent to each one of you. Likewise, I think everyone carries a message that you can relate to and that you can apply in your own jobs and roles. So typically what we do is we take care of experience design for digital channels like your web, mobile, wearables, and those kind of things. The things that have been changing the last few years and the continuing change that we are seeing is the impact of design thinking in the approach that we take, service design, and the newer technologies. For example, in design thinking, designers are now involved upfront in finding a solution to a problem. Earlier it used to be MBAs and others who are really defining the problem. What we are seeing is now designers are kind of participating in those discussions. And the value that we take to the table there is bringing a very strong customer orientation, a better understanding of the customers. Service design, we'll be talking a lot more after this. Newer technologies, shifting from your big screen to your tablets to your smartphones, we're now kind of coming across voice-based interaction, artificial intelligence, chatbots. All of this is going to redefine how we design interactions. And that's what is kind of a challenge now that we need to be overcoming soon. Before I hand over, I just want to leave one point with you all. Listening to all the talks that happened prior to this, the biggest influence that I've had in terms of design was one simple phrase. Everything around us is a prototype. So if you look at the world that way, if you look at this table, you look at this chair, you look at your jobs, you look at your relationships, nothing is in its final state. Everything can be improved. And as a designer, if you look at the world that way, then you'll be continuously improving everything that's around you. And that will stretch your imagination. With that, I'll hand over.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? I hope you can understand my Italian accent. So, my name is Filippo. I work as a creative director at the BBC, based in London, UK. I've been working on a variety of products and services for them in the last 5 years. I recently started leading a new team, a new project, which looks at ethical and cultural experiences for the BBC. So our aim is to foster a culture of innovation within the BBC, which is ethical, which puts value for people at the forefront of what we do. Kind of slightly connected to that, I'm also teaching here at CID Summer School, which has this first edition here in Kochi. The course I'm teaching in is called Future Casting, and it's a course that teaches our students how to think more critically about the future. So we give them some future trends, some technology trends that are emerging right now in society. And through a series of exercises, we teach them how to think more critically about their adoption and the effect and implications that they might have on society. So, yeah, this is a very short summary about me. Is there anything else I should say? No worries.
Good afternoon. My name is Siddharth Balachandran. I represent Airbus BizLab. Airbus BizLab is a department within Airbus where we work with startups and internal teams in identifying innovative ideas from outside the company and from inside the company. When I speak about startups, the idea is not to try and identify the next aeroplane builder. The idea is to see how they can help us address several of our challenges. And within the company, we help our internal teams develop innovative ideas and we help them scale it to a viable business. So prior to Airbus, I was an advisor, a trade advisor with the French Trade Commission, where the primary objective was to help facilitate bilateral trade between India and France. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Satheesh Nair. I'm a graduate of National Institute of Design back in '90. So I did my industrial design that time. And since then, about last 28 years, I've been in the user-focused area. I have changed domains of design, and currently I lead a team of designers at Ernst India. So we support our clients, the Global 360 clients, in terms of business transformation. So in that, all domains of design comes in picture. So we'll talk more about it during the discussion.
Good, thank you, Satheesh. So I'll now start my panel discussion. You had a word of introduction about what they do and how they contribute the industry that they come through. So my first question to you, Sairaj, is, and I'll just hand over. So Sai, we're talking about Wipro and your experience with customer experience and mobility, right? So my first question to you is from a product space. How does design thinking process improve innovation and customer experience? So innovation and customer experience are in synonym use, right? Are they different? Do they work with each other? Do you have any experience to share from a design thinking perspective, how that has been applied in the product domain in your experience?
Sure. So the fundamental thing about design thinking is user empathy. You have to understand your customers well, understand everything about them, what they eat, how they breathe, everything, and bring that into your solutioning. I'll give an example more than trying to give you the theory of design thinking. So recently we kind of completed a project for a hospital in Europe. And the problem that came to us was they wanted to build a mobile app to communicate better with the patients. So the challenge they said was when you have patients with cancer kind of coming into the cancer ward, when they come in, and the time it takes for them to get the diagnosis was about 49 days. Right? You can imagine, they come and meet a doctor, and then the doctor advises certain tests, it goes through a process, and for them to know whether they have cancer or not was taking them 49 days. Now that can be quite horrendous for any patient. So then we told the hospital, now your problem is not communication. Your problem is not to build a mobile app to give them an update where they stand in the process. Your problem is to reduce that time, bring it down from 49 days. So the way a design thinking workshop works is, the way we executed to this was, we brought all the stakeholders into a workshop. The hospital administrators, the stakeholders, doctors, nurses, people who are making the appointments, your lab technicians and all of them. And there are many methods and many tools you use in a workshop like this. You can do brainstorming with them, each of them are trying to solve the problem. And they give their perspective, you do role play, a doctor kind of asks questions to a patient, the patient asks questions. So a lot of techniques that you use to really arrive at how to solve the problem. Now the beauty of this is, it brings more perspectives. It brings an administration perspective, a doctor's perspective, a patient's perspective, and together they arrive at a solution. At the end of it, what we were able to achieve was, we brought the process and the wait time down to 7 days. So now a person can come in, meet a doctor, and within 7 days, they get the diagnosis. And I think that's been a remarkable value that we took to that particular hospital by applying a design thinking process. One other example is when we were interacting with the patients, when we were interviewing them, when we were shadowing them. And shadowing means really walking along with them, right from home to when they come to the hospital, to when they come to the ward, their wait time, when they meet the doctor and all of that. A lot of things came out. One patient said, when I was waiting there for the doctor, I felt I'm at the doorstep of death. Because the entire ambience was so gloomy, right? And as part of the design change we brought, when we lightened up the entire mood of that waiting space, that made such a difference to the patients. So all these aspects, understanding the users, understanding the customers, and making change to make things better for them is the real value of the design thinking process.
Totally, and I would just narrate my experience also connected to the same. I was one of the person who wrote a long mail to a large hospital about the waiting experience or the customer experience while you were waiting for an attendance from a doctor, right? So, and I'm very happy to say that once the feedback is given, the hospital did take it, did a constructive empathy, user empathy journey, and relatively improved their turnaround time and their patient handling time by a significant level. Coming to the other part is, Filippo, I will come to you, right? Now, I'll ask you into another extreme. We all work with social media. We work with a lot of tools, and we have a lot of user experiences with them. So the world is waking up to the fact that the Silicon Valley mantra that drove innovation for the last 10 years, that means disrupt and then break things, right? Led to a world full of fake news and addictive Instagram feeds. So you do have that circulating quite a lot. What's the role of design thinking in changing this trajectory and fostering a culture for a more sustainable innovation? Can you share your thoughts about it?
Sure. Thank you for the question. Right. So I think that, as you said, in the last 10 years or so, kind of technology and sort of design communities have been, in a way, kind of responsible for fostering a culture that, as you said, is governed by a mantra, which is disrupt and break things, right? And disrupting and breaking things can be really, really useful, because at times, that's exactly what you need to do in order to take the components apart and find new meaningful connections and make new ideas. The problem with that is that, technology is evolving faster and faster, right? The pace at which technology not only evolves, but also at which it is adopted is kind of speeding up. And on the other hand, the speed at which us as a society react to issues is staying constant, right? So this means that designers and technologies are actually at the forefront of the push toward the future. So in a way, makers, engineers, designers, people who work in technology almost get there first. Like, they're building a piece of the future, like building the future one piece at a time, so to speak. Therefore, I think, designers moved from designing things to designing ecosystem of things. At some point, we started designing cultures, we started designing processes and designing teams. I think the next stage for me is almost to move from kind of the user-centered design to citizen-centered design. What does it mean to design for citizens? What does it mean to have an holistic approach to innovation that see people as, people that inhabit an environment, that are interconnected with other people through social connections, and what are the implications of this? So maybe this is the key, right? Starting to look at the implication as well as applications. I think this will achieve two things. So, it can both mean that the design community has better tool and more control towards choosing the preferable route forward. But I think also the consumer world is waking up to the fact that, is waking up to the consequences of the pure applicative thinking, problem-oriented thinking. And I think actually, also in terms of business, the same, in the same way where, the world woke up to the environmental crisis a while ago, I think there's going to be, actual business value for businesses and startups to start thinking more about implications. It's going to open up more opportunities, I believe, and I think the public is going to be more and more open to this type of innovation.
Thank you, Philip. My next question is to Satheesh. If I can jump to Satheesh. So we just heard about user empathy, customer experience journey. We heard about how the break and fix or break and make will help, and how designing or having a design mentality will help. Let me just switch over from this to service design. So that's an area that comes up in the industry quite a lot, saying service design. What is service design? So you work with EY quite a lot and more into that area of professional services. What the hell is service design?
Yeah, service design as a profession has been in existence for quite many years. So only difference that's brought in the recent years, it's about looking from bottom up. It's about businesses and technologies driving the services. It's about defining everything, the processes around those. And now the shift has happened. It is becoming top-down in terms of understanding the customer. The customer centricity has come in. So that's the only difference which happened in service design. So also, as Srini and Filippo mentioned, so industrial design, I was trained as an industrial designer, and I started my career as a product designer. So I used to design physical products, right? I look at form, function, and I look at interfaces and also the aesthetic appeal of it. And then 10 years later, I moved into digital product design. So the tools of the trade change. It is about information architecture, interaction design, visual communication design, and so on. So, but lately, the last 5 or 6 years I've been with EY, the kind of challenges come to me from the consulting world has been completely different. So it has been transforming design as such. So what I'm looking at is the difference between a product and service is kind of completely grayed out. So if you look at an object like this, what do you call it? Is it a product? Or is it a digital product? Or is it a service? It is manufactured, it's got a form, function, ergonomics and aesthetic appeal, all of it fits well, so it's a product. At the same time, it is holding hundreds of digital products inside that, your apps, and each of them have its own experience and experience for you. So additionally, if you look at that, these products, each of these digital products are connected to an ecosystem of services. So if you think about the Uber, it's an ecosystem of ride sharing. Or you look at the Amazon, it's an ecosystem of online shopping. So there is a level to that, and they're all fitted inside a platform. So you're looking at an app store or a play store, it's a platform. And on top of that, there is a telecom service which is enabling it. So it's a product holding services inside and service holding product inside. So one thing which hasn't changed since I started my career is that the focus on experience or of the customer centricity. That's one thing remained the same. How much or great your product or service is, if your users can't use it, it's going to be a failure. So it's about understanding the customer's goals and aspirations they were trying to do, understanding the ecosystem in which they work, understanding the life cycle of things that they are trying to do. And when they are achieving those life cycle or going through the life cycle, they will be contacting the service provider or a product service to look at, to say that, they come through various touch points. So you could look at a human touch point, a digital touch point, a physical touch point, or a virtual touch point. All of this touch point, the customer comes to you with an experience or expectation, right? And as an organization, either you deliver that experience, if you meet their expectation, so you kind of have a satisfied customer. But satisfied customer, the days are gone. So you want go beyond that. So you need to go beyond that expectation to create delight. So the entire design thinking process, I think, is supporting this, looking at it from a customer's point of view and the tools and methods that allow you to look at the human, physical, digital and virtual touch point and design experiences around it.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Satheesh. Let me now change the gears to a dashing person here with the dream job of working with Airbus. Siddharth is the biz leader for India Airbus. He has also worked as a key member of the French Technology Planning Committee, right? Working with a lot of startup initiatives. So Siddharth, let me ask you this. What is your experience working with innovators, right? And with the concept of how they think, how they plan their products, how they design their products, how does it apply? And then you marry them to the industry to say, this is where it fits the industry and the journey towards it. So what have been your experiences working with innovators contributing to the aerospace sector? If we can have some examples, and then just a query is design thinking a fundamental integral component of that life cycle? What's your thought?
Okay. There are multiple questions in that one, so let me try and answer all of them. I think to begin with, if I understood that right, your first part of the question was, does innovation come due to a need?
Yes, exactly.
All
Does
right.
innovation come through as a need? How does an innovator think? What's your experience when you work with a lot of innovation companies, and how does design thinking fit into it from a product space?
Yeah. Now, before us, Mr. Srinivasan was on stage, and he had mentioned that one of the key priorities for the World Design Organization, one out of the 7 key priorities was quality education. I think that's very important, and I'll tell you why. Because when you take India, we are a country of 1.3 billion people. And when we talk of innovation today, we always take any of the successful startups, the unicorns, you would see that they have been more of an evolutionary sort of an idea. They have identified a need and they've built a startup, a business model around that. Which is not wrong, which is great. But the reason why I think quality education is very important is the education system today in India is sort of conditioning us to think of how do we achieve certain objectives. We don't have a system where it's telling us to think out of the box, right? And that is where I think revolutionary ideas are important. There is space for that. 1.3 billion people, I think we can definitely come up with ideas that revolutionize the way we do business, irrespective of the sector. Now coming to your second question about how does innovation from India help address some key challenges for Airbus? Like I said when I introduced myself earlier, we're not looking for the next aeroplane or rocket builder amongst the startups. What we are looking for is we have challenges that we want to address in an agile way, right? I'll take one such example, and it's probably the biggest success stories that we have in India. It's a startup that we identified in Bangalore that was into supply chain analytics. We had a specific challenge across plants where we were not able to keep track, or rather we were able to keep track, but we were using we were not using the right technologies. Rather, for instance, an A320, an A380 has over 4 million parts in the aircraft. And we have several suppliers from around the world delivering key components that go into an aircraft. Now, how do you keep track? What happens if there's a delay with one such part, right? It impacts the entire manufacturing process and the delivery to our customer, right? So this startup, and this is a startup from Bangalore, mind you, has developed a solution for us from the procurement stage right up to the final assembly line, where we can keep track of not just the components, but also we have an early warning and a risk monitoring system that basically sort of throws out a red flag every time that there's a delay. Now this helps us in our delivery to our customers, and end of the day, the idea is to be on time with our deliveries, but also to have happy customers.
Sure. I'm mindful of time. We have 13 minutes more. That's what the clock timer says. One question to Filippo now. Filippo, Siddharth was talking about thinking out of the box. We hear this terminology quite a lot. You work with a lot of members, young as well as senior developers or faculty. What does this terminology of thinking out of the box from a design thinking perspective mean? Right? Thinking out of the box.
Thinking out of the box. Well, I mean, it comes hand in hand with having, as you said, a diversity, right? So diverse in terms of, diversity in terms of backgrounds, in terms of perspective, in terms of seniority as well. I think from the short circuit of and the healthy clash of different point of views, I think a lot of ideas that come, from those perspectives come out. And if you were inside the box, then you were most likely outside of the box as an outcome of that.
So do you have like a methodology that goes through design thinking, that you flesh out this user empathy, customer journey, and then, do prototyping? What is your experience working with, younger groups or industry veterans, right? Is it easy to think out of the box? Is it we are more stereotyped towards product and shape and form, or is it a nature that needs to be inculcated in people?
I think that the nature of the current world, interconnected, continuously changing, like iterative world where everything is fluid. Things are not things anymore, they are a system of interconnected things that keep flowing. I think there is no choice by thinking outside the box. I think reapplying the same models over and over will lead to failure. I think there is the need for a new methodology, a new type of learning, which is continuous learning. I think, in the Industrial Revolution, as an outcome of the Industrial Revolution, maybe, measures and processes could be standardized and repeated, but in the era of cognitive work, cognitive machines, that doesn't work anymore, simply.
So that comes up with a last question to the panel is, we have heard this new term called storytelling, right? And you hear a lot of it in the design thinking concept, saying, let's do it through the art of storytelling. What are some of your thoughts, if I can push it back to Sai, storytelling from a concept of a product, what does that mean, right? You talked about customer journey. Is customer journey storytelling? Is what Siddharth said, thinking from end to end, is it storytelling? What is storytelling?
Yeah, so actually it's a difficult question. I didn't expect you to ask me because it's a little abstract. See, fundamentally, if you look at how message was passed on right from the start of human civilization, it has been word of mouth. And the best way we've absorbed theories, absorbed, let's say, values and cultures was through stories. Most of the religious texts had the principles embedded through stories. You have fables which have stories, and at the end of it, that's something that you learn out of it. So I think many of us are cultured towards listening to stories better and understanding stories better than just a theoretical kind of explanation. Some of the ways we adopt storytelling in our design thinking process or when we interact with customers or users for research is to put it in a story mode. If I have to show them an interface and tell them these are the features, it is less effective when I tell them, see, I am in this situation and I use this particular feature in that situation. If I put it into a story-based context, there is a lot more emotion that I kind of achieve from the users, and they're able to share back stories, right? So you can apply storytelling in many methods, in the way you communicate, in the way you present, in the way you achieve things with whoever you're trying to communicate with, and in the design process, achieving with the users is how we tend to use storytelling.
That's an excellent side. You attended it quite well and to the point. I think anybody else needs to add?
So at our wave space and experience design studio, we use storytelling first, as you rightly mentioned, for the empathizing and understanding the customer pain points, and always narratives are great ways of understanding the customer's experience. Second, when the technology is advancing, that is another area which we talk about. We use quite a lot in terms of storytelling of your intended or future journeys of your customer. So you're going to transform the organization. So kind of put them in the probably future cast, or put them in the way we are going to transform the organization and show them a 6 years or 6 months or one year down the lane how it will look, and take them through the entire journey of a transformed organization. And probably at many times we have also used virtual reality, augmented reality, all of these effects to get people onto and feel the same experience what they will see in the near future. So that's another way we use it. I mean, use more immersive kind of digitally first kind of stories.
May I add something to that? I think there is a quote from someone which I forgot the name of, that said that designers went from understanding technology and solving problems to understanding people and telling stories. So I think that's kind of like the shift that we all made, in a way, from purely solving problems to asking ourselves what if questions and telling stories to visualize those possible worlds, with the idea of influencing our next steps.
Sure, thank you. We do have 6 minutes of time. I will hold my questions back and give the opportunities for somebody in the audience to ask any questions to this panel. If somebody can circulate a mic. You have an additional mic? Yes. The lady there will circulate a mic. If you would like to ask any questions, please use this opportunity to ask our panel anything that they can share from their experience. Any questions? Any raise of hands? Yes, you have a lady there.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sharanya. I have had experience with design thinking in urban planning in Germany. But I realized that we have experts on stage, but design thinking has not reached India at an academic level yet. So what can be done to bring it to our students here? Because even though I know that many of them are here, but many of them does not know the stages of design thinking. They might have heard of the concept, but it has not been introduced as a studio subject in architecture or urban planning or any other this thing.
So I'll just reiterate the question. She had been to Germany and she's interacted in urban planning,
Yes.
if I'm right.
Yes.
And she's saying that while she was experiencing there, a lot of design thinking simulations were happening. But how can we in India move to that level of thinking from a design thinking perspective? How do we train ourselves? How do we develop companies? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
What do we need to do to increase the level of awareness and usage of design thinking?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Right. I think, like, my experience of people that come, for example, in the UK, that come from India, is that there is an incredible technical background, technical skills that come from this country. And I've always thought that if India managed to add a layer of design thinking on top of that, oh my God, you guys are gonna like skyrocket. I think moments like this event, the fact that CIID is coming to Kochi to start up a course. I think the question that you're asking is almost like, how do we start a movement? And I can't answer that for you. You need to answer the question for yourself. I think that, you know, there are lots of resources. There is a network, a global network of resources and people, and I think that, you know, these are good steps towards the direction of opening up, putting India on the map of those resources and network. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be down to organization and individuals to bring together and paint a picture for design thinking world having its place and finding its foot in India.
Yeah, so Filippo.
And also, I think as urban planners, you are probably doing the top end of service design, right? You are looking at the entire citizens and looking at kind of spaces and designing all of that. So you are already on top of all that. Probably design thinking is not something rocket science other than what you are doing, but probably in terms of learning yourself, there are so many design thinking courses and all, and hundreds of canvases and things which you can leverage for doing that. But more than anything else, I think you are already doing it. As an urban planner, you couldn't do anything without design thinking. You are in the user's shoe or a citizen's shoe in terms of understanding their pain points and defining your spaces around. So absolutely you are there, and these things can come through very easily.
So just to summarize, Filippo mentioned a word called movement. Please use this summit as a movement. Please use the Copenhagen Institute, who is here to learn more. I think they will revisit. They will have further sessions. They will be connectable, contactable. Use this design summit to actually spread and leverage through experience of networking what we can individually do to learn and then apply this design thinking in various spheres of life. It doesn't only have to be technology, it can be any areas of your workplace. Any other questions that you have? Any raise of hands? Okay.
I'm Imtiaz, I'm a teacher. I have an out-of-the-box question. That is, so the storytelling is a new word, I heard it here. It's very interesting. Like we have learned a lot of things, moral values, etc. from Hindi movies. How is it from a pedagogic point of view? What is the practice in the world? Is it being used to teach high-end stuff for this storytelling? Can you comment on that?
So maybe Satheesh, question for you. You use storytelling, as you have said, in industry, in professional services. So the question is, terminology being new, can you narrate some examples of how storytelling is embedded in the industrial world or in the services world?
I think for children and to be using design thinking into those principles, and many of the schools are already using. There is actually dedicated time for them to explore themselves and probably look at problems in a much more open way than being constrained. And also thinking it from a user-centric perspective, there are many schools which are already doing it as part of the curriculum. But it is all about bringing openness to your students, and this methods, as I talked about, it is something which is freely available across, and it is about having that dedicated time and effort. See, 1 hour you can go through the entire design thinking philosophy which is done by the D School, Stanford. So if you look at it, 1 hour, you will see the value of it. Just in 1 hour, there's a video available on YouTube. If you look at it and put your people through it, they will completely understand, because you need to think from somebody else's point of view. So there is a lot of material which is available, and as long as you think it is really valid and open up your students, definitely this is something which you can try out in your extracurricular time.
So I'm completely out of time. Unless you have one last burning question, I would thank my panelists. Otherwise, do you have any other further questions? One, last one. And this, any of the panel members can take a shot.
Yeah, I was just wondering if at some point we will be able to design our own lives. So even I'm a teacher.
That's a philosophical question.
No,
but yes.
Okay.
At some point, will we be able to design our lives? That's the question. So,
is it coming on me? No one else wants to? I think we kind of already are. That would be my question. I think, everything about us, from our bodies to our lives, is an outcome of design, right? I think, our body has changed in reaction to how we're using our tools from a very physical level. And our lives are constantly shaped by digital services. I think the design thinking movement or methodology is branching out to things like behavior or lifestyles as well, in a way. So I think the answer is we already are doing that. That's my answer.
And my final conclusion is yes, you can. It is an outcome, it is a process that you have to deliver to see what is the outcome that you desire in your life. So I think we do it unconsciously every day, and we do change our designs as and when we encounter problems, but I believe that we use design thinking in every step of our life, whether it's going from point A to point B or solving a problem from one juncture to the other juncture, or take a deviation, right? And we face that every day. It happens unconsciously when you use methods into processes with a desired service area or a product area. It adds value to realizing the goals quite quickly. And that exactly is what design thinking helps us to do. Thank you. Thank you everybody for listening to us, and thank you panel for supporting us. I think we had a good healthy discussion and in time.
Gentlemen, I'd like to request you to stay on stage for a moment. We'd like to express our appreciation to all of you by presenting a memento, and for that I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Ajit P. Balakrishnan, Chief Minister's IT Fellow. Are you around, Ajit? Thank you, gentlemen, for touching upon some key facets of transformation that has happened over the last few years, and even for addressing some larger life questions. I'd like to have Harshan Vivi back on stage to present mementos. We are presenting the memento first to Mr. Siddharth Balachandran, leader of Airbus BizLabs India.
Mr. Filippo, Cuttica, faculty at CSID. Mr. Sairaj Vaithalingam, Head of Experience Design and Mobility at Wipro. Mr. Satheesh Nair, Executive Director, Experience Design at Ernst & Young. And finally, the moderator of the session, Mr. Richard Antony, Director, India Operations-GDS at Ernst & Young. Harshal, may I request you to join them in the middle, and can we have that one picture with the panel? Thank you, gentlemen, for obliging us.